Check. Check. Test, test.
order. Everybody got their mics on? We good? We're good. Okay, item number 2, pledge of allegiance. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Moving on to item 3, roll call. Bill Shute, present. Russ Vernon is absent. Member Hamilton
I'm here.
and alternate Gray.
Here.
Okay. All right, item number 4. Is there anybody on from the public out? Yep. Okay. If at any point anyone would like to ask a question and make a comment and have joined the meeting with their computer, they can click on the raise hand button located at the bottom of the screen. We will be alerted that they would like to speak. When called upon, please unmute the microphone and ask the question to make comments in no more than 3 minutes. Those who have joined by dialing a number on their telephone will need to press *6 to unmute themselves and then *9 to alert us that they would like to speak. A slight pause will also be offered at the conclusion of each agenda item discussion to allow public members an opportunity to make comments or ask questions. All right. Item number 5, seating of alternates.
We definitely need to seat Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Yep.
you are
I am seated.
Yes, you would.
Literally. Okay. Item number 6, additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda.
Cynthia, you guys have any?
I have none.
Okay.
I have none.
None from the chair. Okay, item 7, public comments relating to items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments?
I don't think we received any in writing, right, Don?
No written comments, sorry.
And Julie's public member.
Hello, Julie.
Oh, let me go back a second to item 6 in regards to the sub-metering. I believe with Ahmed not here, he will not be able to provide some of the
So we're gonna have to
information that you
defer
had
that one.
requested in regards to doing a comparison with the voter registration and that type of thing.
So we'll have to defer that to next month.
Yes, let's
That's what I was
do that.
wondering about.
Okay,
14.
noted. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, item 8. Everybody should have the June 2nd minutes in front of them. Take a minute to review and ask for a motion to approve.
I am motion to approve. I have
Second.
read them.
All right,
Second.
second roll call.
Actually.
You're all here. You can do voice vote.
Voice vote.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
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 3 ayes. Thank you for that. All right, moving along. Number 9, general manager comments. General manager.
Well, I guess for the good of the order, it's with some regret to announce that earlier today, we were notified by Russ that he will be unable to continue his presence on our committee. And I think it was my handwriting in that note I sent him that put him over the edge.
Mhm.
So, but we wish him well and we thank him for his service. And I'm sure we'll have some sort of commemorative thing we can get to him, for, gosh, how long has he been on the committee? Several years. I don't know, 2.5 years. So, and he'll need to get his out of office Form 700 stuff done. I'm sure you'll communicate that stuff to him. So that's one thing. And as I've been informing our board and our other committees, something to keep an eye on is obviously the drought is a big topic these days. The state water project's in a lot of pressure, although runoff was higher than expected, but still very low. But it's not as bad as it could have been in California. But on the Colorado side, things are a bit more dire. There's more water coming out of the reservoirs than is going in every year and has been for a long time, to the tune of several million acre feet. And last month, the Bureau of Reclamation told the 7 basin states they got 60 days to figure out how to cut 2 to 4 million acre feet of next year's demands, or else they're going to do it for them, primarily because one of their primary objectives there is hydropower. One of the reason they built some of those dams originally was for power. And like, the Hoover Dam powers a lot of Southern California, and Glen Canyon Dam as well. And so they've got to preserve water to make hydropower. And last month, in a testimony at the U.S. Senate, the general manager of Southern Nevada Water Authority that was talking about, they serve Las Vegas and that whole area in the Southern Nevada area, how, the urban areas have done their share here, and that Las Vegas, has way more people, but uses way less water than it used to, similar to San Diego County. We have more people over the last 30 years. We use 40% less water. But his comments indicated that 80% of the water that comes down the Colorado River is used by agriculture, and 80% of that is used to grow alfalfa and other feed crops. And not his comments, but all the studies I've looked at show that a huge percentage of that gets shipped out of the country too. So there's a solution here. We can be the breadbasket of our country. We just probably can't be the breadbasket of the world anymore. But there isn't, like Mark Twain is alleged to have said, water's for fighting, whiskey's for drinking. There's the people down there who are going to claim that their rights are given to them by God will fight to the death over this stuff. And so the courts will be a very long and tortured path. The upper basin states, Colorado, Utah, and whatnot, who have traditionally used very little of the water, are saying the lower basin states need to do it, mainly California, who's used the lion's share for forever here. So there's a lot of pressure coming on IID and Palo Verde Irrigation District and some of the other big water users, and on the folks in the Arizona side, in the Yuma area, to, hey, let's see what we can do to stop using the water. And it's going to mean fallowing a lot of land out there. IID has positioned themselves that they're not going to do a damn thing unless somebody deals with the Salton Sea. And we're kind of stuck in a thing to where the Salton Sea was a dry lake bed that would fill up on the order of every 500 or 1,000 years, but got filled up 110 or 20 years ago, whatever it was, by accident. And then with all the water coming, Beaver Valley has been kept unnaturally full. It would have evaporated by now, but now we need to keep that full of water or somehow deal with the dust. And so they're angling for a lot of money for that. Even though I think the right thing to do would do a wholesale restructuring of the Colorado River Compact, that will probably take decades, and we've fought to the Supreme Court and back a couple of times in that process. My prediction is there's going to be a mass transfer of cash to pay farmers not to grow. And it's unfortunate because it is a public resource, but somebody's going to get millions and millions and probably billions of dollars to free up the water. In an article with the newspaper in Nevada, Mr. Hensminger also was quoted indicating that in order to meet the goal that USBR has put out, you could empty out Las Vegas, Phoenix, Albuquerque, Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, San Diego, and still not get down to the cuts that they need, because the urban users just aren't the ones using it, right? Those big cuts, we're not the ones that are using all the water. And so there's going to be a big urban versus ag conflict, which is unfortunate, but there are solutions out there. It's just a matter of, people are just going to have to use less. Now that on the state side, it's going to rain again. It was only a few years ago that Lake Oroville was overflowing and all that sort of stuff. We will have these big, huge rain and snowstorms again, but the Colorado side is just a structural deficit. There's 15 million acre feet of rights handed out and only about 12 million acre feet going in every year. And if you look at the stair step of lake levels over the last 20 years, it's like, oh, I see that. And so something's going to have to happen on there to reduce demand. I think in California, we need to work on storage. So when it is really wet, we can stash it away, and it would take a lot of storage, but that'll be there. But also reclamation of wastewater, reuse, maybe some, like you're talking about, we need advances in desalination, so it's not so bloody expensive. And the coastal Southern California 50 years ago will likely not use a lot of imported water. That's just the fact of it. It's going to need to. And for damn sure, we can't count on the Colorado. So the whole concept of building a pipeline to the east that the Water Authority has been pushing and wasting money on is bonkers. So, keep an eye out. There'll be a lot of media coming up on this. Everybody's kind of fighting behind closed doors. I talked to a lot of people who were involved with the machinations of it, and nobody's willing to come right out and say what they think is going to happen yet. But like a duck on a pond, the feet are underwater paddling furiously to figure out whose ox is going to get gored here. And whoever it is, they're going to get a princely sum for their ox getting gored. So that, I wish I had better information than that, but that's what's coming down the pike. So it'll be hot topic in the news over the next 60 days.
Any questions for Tom?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, committee member comments.
I have none.
Yeah, my only comment with what I was sharing with Tom is there was a recent article with regards to improvements in desalination technology where the filters are, where they use kind of molecular process by which one will take the salt out of the water rather than the massive filtering process that they use. There's a facility in Oceanside, I think it's Nido, where they produce a ton of desalination filters for all over the world. And I've been on that floor. The robotics are pretty cool there too as well. I'm watching them build the filters, and it's just a monumental process to have to be able to do that. And I think we all know that desalination uses a tremendous amount of energy to be able to produce the water. So some of these advances in research are going to lower the energy consumption significantly to be able to do desalination. But it's quite a few years away for being practical.
Yeah. Well, you still got to get through CEQA too. So get the Coastal Commission to approve it.
There are technologies out there. I know my sister in Texas on the desal plants along the Gulf Coast has said that one of the major concerns was the byproducts that are
The brine.
on, and they have apparently developed a system that has a zero footprint. You're able to capture and recycle whatever.
At large scale too.
Yeah, these are large scale desal
Wow,
plants.
they got cheap energy.
Yeah, that's energy is cheap down there. Yeah, that's for sure. You know, I think you're right. The desal is, and this goes back to Bill Hitt when we were interviewing. He was a 100-year-old guy or 90 something,
Yeah.
you know, and he's lived up here in Rainbow forever. And he said, you know, we're going to have to look to the ocean because you could just, he's watched his lifetime. And go, yeah, I see the trend here. That's not a reliable supply out there.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of finding it at a lower cost. Now, what I think needs to happen is the funding for it needs to not come from ratepayers, but from people in Colorado or Arizona, or not Colorado, but Nevada, Arizona, or the state of California, who's sitting on what, $97 billion surplus. You know, it's not like we can't
Doesn't
share a
buy
few
roads, but-
bucks here and solve a big problem here, but they've got to get through the environmental concerns. And I think that there's that can be handled as well. The
Yeah.
legislature can make that happen.
All righty, moving on, item 11. This topic is about the water headquarters becoming a field trip destination for local schools.
Yes, so as discussed before, I did reach out to Superintendent Clevenger and he is very excited about that. We had discussed in our last meeting that one of the things that I had offered him, and I think it's a really good idea, is to present that to some of his staff and prior to having the children actually involved. And that way those teachers can figure out how to bring in some curriculum or bring that into whatever their topics are and integrate that into their school age group, that kind of thing. Have teachers there for different age groups and see how we can adjust those for third graders compared to like seventh graders. But also, as I was thinking about that, it's been a while. We had the liability. We looked at this, Tom, back in, again, 2016. We ran it through the
Legal.
processes. I think we should run them through all the processes. And one of the things that we did, which Hayden was a part of, was doing a little bit of the demonstrations that we were going to provide. And so I think a good kickoff would be to have some of our committee members go ahead and have
Do it
them
for them.
scheduled to come and do the full tour with the introduction here in the boardroom. And then, I even have a PowerPoint.
You mean our committee member?
No, I mean for
All other
engineering,
committee- okay.
engineering and operations,
Oh,
More.
budget and finance. all of the committee.
Maybe you
Okay.
could start
All three of the
serving
committees.
cookies.
Yeah.
It's
we're
been
gonna have
6 years.
to.
And so
Bill, it's
we-
been 6 years. I'll come with you.
We're set with we already have a Water 101 PowerPoint presentation that Robert put together. And that's some of the stuff that he helps with our customer service staff to understand a little bit more about what goes on out in the field. I have a video already set that shows the boundaries of the district, that aerial view of where the tanks are, where the reservoirs are, where our water comes from, where the Twin Oaks is, and that type of thing. And then what we would do from there, and that's kind of your district tour outline, is then have each one of the departments represent. The meter service department has a really fun interactive piece where they show it going through the system. We hook it up to the hydrant right out there. And they freeze the line, which the kids just love that. And so did the adults. Construction has nice big equipment and stuff, and Justin's always happy to show how some of that stuff works. Sewer department has a great demonstration. They're a lot of fun, and they show them, using the Vector
Vector.
truck, and the kids have to put their little earplugs in, and Ramon throws.
It's gonna be
little-
trickier now that we don't have a Vector truck, but
They
we borrow Fallbrooks.
we borrow Fallbrooks, but they rope it off so the kids are far enough away, and they show.
Maybe we can put a rainbow magnetic logo over the Fallbrook
Absolutely.
logo when they're here. The one thing I was thinking for the schools when you give it to Joseph is a flyer that has, because we know we take your kids to work day and did a similar thing a while back, and where we have pictures of young people, standing around getting these demonstrations.
Yeah.
Because I think if when a regular average teacher who may not know a lot about it just sees a text narrative of it, it won't drive home as much as seeing kids interacting with the equipment and whatnot in the
And
whatever
I
we
have
hand
all
them.
of those from the Take Your Kids to Work Day. So
Right,
I have
pictures.
pictures of all of those,
Mhm.
the children from the employees.
So we could take one of those and make a little pamphlet or something to talk about district tours that Joseph can hand out to the teachers, and hopefully, because some people, the pictures will drive them to go, oh, that looks
I have
interesting.
a template that kind of looks like a little, like a little pamphlet from a play where it shows the characters,
Oh.
in action, and it kind of
Storyboard.
runs through it like, all the characters and what the program is, and it's a nice little fold. So I'm working on that right now.
Storyboard.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking like when you're
Um,
staying at Motel 6 somewhere and you go up by the lobby and they have that little rack that has all of the featured attractions, like the world's tallest, biggest ball of twine.
Mhm.
And they've got a little trifold pamphlet about the world's tallest ball, biggest ball of twine.
Yeah.
Those sort of things is just a thing to capture people and go, hey, let's go check that out.
Yeah. And with the bullpen, that's going to be a great little place for them to do the technical services, look at the SCADA, see how that works. So I think and the engineering, believe it or not, with the Take the Kids to Work Day, that was one of their favorite things.
Yeah.
And they
looking
do
at
a really
plans.
good job with that and showing them how to lay out plans and how you identify the lines and things like that.
Sure.
So we really are pretty much ready to go. We're just a little rusty. It's been a little.
So you want to practice?
We
Yeah,
want to,
committee
I would
members?
love that. Yes. And we have some new field staff. So I would definitely want to have them get involved in that and
Do we
Understand what we
talk
do.
about where the water actually comes from, or where we get our water from?
yes, in the video that introduces the district, it does that. And I believe in Robert's Water 101, it does as well.
Okay. Second thought would be, if we're planning a field trip, is there, if you will, a preparatory curriculum that we could provide the teacher to sort of prep the story of what's going to be occurring? In other words, it's
Yeah, the day before or whatever.
the day before, or she has a set of exercises, or he, excuse me, not being chauvinistic here, that the teacher has a set of material that they can use as part of their educational program that then would feed into the field trip So it's a combination of knowledge and reinforcement of knowledge type of scenario.
I can certainly work with them to see what they would be interested in having and, in depth, would it be like a game? Would it be like some kind of thing that they fill out? I also have a full PowerPoint presentation in regards to conservation when I would go to the schools
Mhm.
before COVID that did kind of the history of water, how the Indians followed the water and how they moved during the winter and the summer times to follow that
Do
water.
the
And
kids get that in fifth grade? Isn't
they
that-
get it in fourth grade because that's California history. So that's our calendar contest is focused on fourth graders. Makes it a really easy
Does it cover the
to
fact that
slide into their curriculum.
that pollen is water?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, let me find out what types of materials they would be interested in. A lot of those are really easy to get online through all those programs that they have and directed towards that age group. as well.
I'm just trying to think of ways that you can integrate it into the teaching curriculum in such a way that it's not, hey, we're going to do a field trip type of thing. So there's pre-knowledge, exposure, post-knowledge type of opportunity.
No, perfect.
There's PowerPoints with like the hydrological cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, it could come through their science curriculum.
Yeah.
So this-
Another thing that we can also offer is they do have, oh, I can't think of the name of it, but basically it's a gentleman and I think he has a couple staff members and we have funding to have them come over. They have a van and they do a whole little presentation on water. And so that can be something we can slide in there as well. But I think
That would be part of the tour or part of the pre or post,
it could be
either one. Okay.
Get Miss Smarty Plants over here.
Yeah.
With smarty things.
Yeah, she's the lady that goes around and does work down at the water conservation garden, but she goes out to schools and teaches about drought tolerant plants. They calls herself Miss Smarty Plants.
Yeah, that's cool.
Smarty
This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of interactive stuff. And I know that the cities really utilize it a lot and a couple of the other districts do that on a regular.
I can't help but notice that we have a teacher in the audience. I'd like to point the fickle finger of fate at her and ask her if she has
Yeah.
any concepts or ideas that might be apropos for this topic. Oh, come on, don't shake your head.
And they want Dawn has to have this. She's making me do it.
I didn't come.
Please.
And Chelsea won't be
State
able to
your
hear
name.
you.
I came because I see this with great potential. So I wanted to see what you're doing. It sounds really exciting. One thing in the K-12 curriculum that we have lacked for many years is the way organizations are governed. And so I encourage you to think about, if they're going to be in the boardroom at the beginning, talk about how the governance is here and how major decisions are going to run through committees, but also that it is a board of directors that make decisions for the betterment of the region. Because that's something that our students, it would benefit from knowing, but everything else sounds awesome.
Throw a civics lesson
And
in.
thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me,
No,
Dawn.
that's an excellent
Dawn,
idea.
better get yourself ramped up. She actually has a whole program where she actually lets them vote and decide who's president and put down the gavel and everything. So we-
For our democracy to stay strong, I think we really need to start young with the awareness of how our democracy runs. And I think Rainbow, Tom, you do, and your staff, as well as the directors, Hayden, I think it's exciting for them to see
I think it's an
democracy
excellent
in
idea.
action.
yeah,
All right, thank you.
excellent.
Governance is a
And
good idea.
believe it or not, our children teach us quite a bit. So these kids go home with information about what they've learned and their parents become enlightened. Okay. Thank you, Alex.
So a couple questions. You wanna kind of perfect the program and the kind of execution on it by doing a little dry run, right? That's what you're asking.
It got pretty perfected with the take your kids to work day, but like I said, we have new field staff. They're not used to like,
Rust in practice.
yeah, it's
Right.
rust, yes,
Better-
yes,
okay.
yeah. And it really find the guys out there that are the showmen that really,
Got
can
it.
put on a good program.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, all right, so we'll do it. And then the district tour sheet that is in front of us, which is more of a, looks like a public outreach
Uh-huh.
thing. So explain how that syncs up with item 11.
So
I think this is
that's
just-
what we called it, was
Yeah.
public outreach. We were going to, I mean, literally the Bonsall Chamber staff were wanting to do this. They wanted to learn more. Remember when they reached out to us? I think Fallbrook did as well. And so we wanted to make this something that would be accessible by contacting us, going through all of this and saying basically quarterly, we would have a window of opportunity. And if people reached out to us, they could do.
So
that.
how would we use this to set one of these things up and get the word out to get enough participation to make it worth everybody's time to do and use it as a committee recruitment tool?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Ding, 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 ding,
Well,
ding, 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 ding.
I,
ding.
I don't think the chamber is a bad idea. I had completely forgotten about it until you said that, because again, we. with
Well, there's
COVID-
lots
Everything-
of-
COVID
lots
came,
of
everything
groups
went
in in the area, right?
Yeah.
Between Bonsall and Fallbrook.
Yes, yes.
So it'd be nice to create a target list.
Yeah.
Of whether it's the ladies group
Yeah.
about this or the Chamber of
Exactly.
Commerce about that or whatever.
Uh,
Yeah, I think we definitely need to make a little promotional brochure
Sure.
that when we go out to different places, we can leave around and
Yeah.
But to
and
try
give to
to
people and-
schedule one of these.
I'm,
things.
have
yes,
the
and
front
I'm,
desk.
I'm with COVID, we're kind of getting over that. I'll be
We certainly
attending
hope
more
so.
of the chamber events.
yeah, they've got a sundowner coming up.
They do, and I'm thinking about going. So if I have
Rotary
some
Club's gonna-
brochures, I can pass them around and say, hey, come see our place. Come,
Mhm.
we'll do an event here.
When would be a good time? Obviously from a school district standpoint, we've got to wait till they get back
Yes.
to classes. But you get into the holiday season pretty fast. Do we want to try to target something that happens in October or?
I think we probably talked to Joseph as well. I just sat next to him at breakfast this morning. I didn't realize I should have asked him that question, but
I can reach out to him again, but I think
He's
what
back
you're
in town now.
asking
He's
is
on
other,
vacation
other
for a while.
things as well, before school.
well,
Gets back
I think
in
the
session.
public tour and the school tours are kind of a distinct thing.
Okay,
But use one as well. It's an outreach.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's an education for our constituents but.
Yeah, we could
also
get it out
be
to
a
the
great-
HOAs and things like that. And put it in the newsletter.
absolutely.
Hey, we're having a tour. Come see what we do.
What's?
And then Bill will hang out in the corner and with a big net and snare people to become committee members.
Yes, he will. Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one.
More badges where you just. Well, when we've had these co-meetings with Fallbrook and with representatives of LAFCO and other topics that have come up.
The town hall type meetings,
town
yeah.
hall type- what kind of participation typically? I know it's been some
Room
overflow
packed.
rooms. so
Overflowing rooms, yeah.
500 people, is that 100?
No,
people?
150 to
Yeah,
200,
100 to
depending
200
on the
people.
facility.
I think the first step is to get a brochure. So let me work on that, and that way I can pass that by you guys. Hopefully. I
You
can-
might have slightly different variants for the school thing versus.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the adults.
Absolutely.
I just think this is a very exciting time to get involved, given how many things are going on. That
And water is becoming a bigger thing in the news.
It
People are
is.
gonna think about water and then
Yeah.
we can have some water saving tips and things like that. Show them the flume, hey, do your parents have this on their
Yeah.
phone? If not, you gotta tell them to get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have some opportunities with the MAP funding to also provide those buckets that everybody liked. Remember when we went
Yeah.
to the one Fallbrook event and everybody wanted the buckets, but they have these ones that collapse now, so they're not big and bulky. So I'm working with San Diego County Water Authority to make sure that we secure all the things that we need. Another thing we could do is we could do magnets and have them on our cars and say we have public tours. We can find all sorts of ways to kind of have that out there. So,
Is there anything that prohibits us from allowing this space to be used for a community organization meeting if it was in conjunction with a tour where we would invite some organization,
Like
say,
Rotary.
come have your meeting at our building and,
It's funny you should ask that.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that question came up and HOA wanted to use it and they want to do in the evening. And we did have a policy that we looked at back in 2016.
2016.
And we're going to bring it back to the board next month. There's no time for this month in August. They do every other month. So we got till September. But the challenge is that if they want to do it during the day and we don't have a conflict, it's not a big deal. We're here. But if they want to do it at night and I've got to pay somebody to keep the gate open, stay here and then lock up when they leave and make sure they're not just wandering around the building. Because once you're in this room, you're inside our secure perimeter and you can get anywhere you want to go without going through any of our controls. We have to have somebody here. We got to pay that person. And so they've got to cover those costs. That's basically what the policy says. And that has dissuaded some of the past because it could be, $150 to pay a person to sit here for 2 hours or if they want it longer.
So I
But-
guess the angle I would be going with this is that if we were going to have an event where we did a tour and we had stations and all these kinds of things that as one of the incentives is that to get that group and their membership to come, that we allow them to use the conference room to hold for their meeting as well.
Oh, so if an HOA
It's-
wanted to do
yeah.
a tour and a meeting,
Meeting.
yeah. It's the trick and that's what we're dealing with one way or now is they want to do it in the evening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
HOAs
therefore we
would probably
couldn't
want to do it in
combo
the
that.
meeting because most of their people work.
Right. And so that gets to be a little trickier.
Mhm.
But I
And-
think,
But it could still be put on the offer letter.
Right. And so what we're hoping when we build a new headquarters, that this meeting space will be able to be accessed
Yes.
different hours. It's not going to be behind a secured perimeter and that it will have, limited things that people can get into, and we could give a code that they can unlock the door and then it'll lock automatically when they're
I
done.
think the interesting thing is that I think word's getting out. I mean, I don't know where Mike Malone heard, but he specifically came in here just for that to find out.
It's hard to
Wow.
find space these days too, because a lot of people, there's some restaurants that have closed and whatnot that people might have informally done those things at.
Thank you for
See
joining
you,
us.
Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I just thought that
Okay.
may be an interesting hook, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
have their quarterly meeting and you basically say,
Well, some of that,
have your 50 members
Yeah.
come or whatever, 25 members come in.
Yeah.
And we do it.
Have your meeting.
I mean,
we'll do a tour.
that could be some of that promotional stuff. Hey, do you have a meeting? Here's what we can do, you know?
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. All right, anything else on item 11? That's great. I think this is a great
Okay.
topic. Okay, moving on to 12, communication strategies for backflow device removal.
Actually, we made some great strides in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're getting there. So I don't know. Issa,
Did you
want-
get all your, sorry, my name's East, I'm the construction and meter
Yeah.
supervisor.
I talked
Director
with
Hamilton,
Robert.
okay.
Robert's
Did
on,
he-
but he's got ice on his knee still.
Did he answer all your questions about the meter and the backflow that
Yeah.
got put in? Okay, perfect. So now we have been working with Cynthia and coming up with a strategy on how do we get the word out to offer the information to customers if they want to get the backflow removed. We are hesitant to send out a mass mailer to 5,000 customers and tell them, hey, if you want to get your backflow removed, give us a call. Get in touch with Alex, our cross connection specialist, because then that will pull him away from his regular duties, which is testing backflows, sending out mailers, locking customers off if they're not compliant with us. So I feel like the backflow program has made some great strides in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, we were in a position where we weren't testing all of them. Now we're in a position where we tested all of them and are sending out mailers and are locking off customers. So to send off the mass mailer is a concern for our staff because it would pull him away from his duties. But we have thought about, or
Can
he
we
has,
trickle them out? Like,
that is something
100
that
a
we've
month or
talked about
something?
internally, probably doing them by cycles or by routes, only doing, let's say 500 a month or, so then.
Get
like
'em
that,
out all
spread
over
it,
the year or
right,
something.
so that the calls aren't coming in 5,000 at a time. But yeah, as customers.
You want to be reactive mostly rather than proactive. Proactive
Exactly.
is sending out mailers to everybody and suddenly being overwhelmed, whereas reactive is you've put information out where they can find the information and request.
Exactly.
Right.
And as a call,
Those changes are being made to the website now. So.
Right.
Just the last
and
day that we
this-
went over
The
that.
reason I bring this up, and I talked with Robert about it, is one of my neighbors got a lock-off notice.
Mhm.
He called the three people that were on the list. All three people, suggested he had a backflow failure.
okay,
Mhm.
Okay. So he called the certain three companies that were listed on the notice that he was sent. They all said, we're too busy to do anything. And he called me saying,
There's 12 on there, but
There's-
anyway, they called him.
right.
And the net impact was I went to the website and did a search on backflow, and you got three hits, I think it was. Two of them were discussions from previous board meetings. And the third one was that extended list of repair service companies. It's like 20 or something.
We have a backflow landing page, but it's not as front and center and it needs to be updated. So.
Well,
It is,
I'm saying a search on backflow didn't even take me to the landing page.
Oh, interesting.
And so I talked to Robert about that, and he said that you were upgrading the website to provide information about, can I qualify for the basic fundamentals on qualifying for having your backflow device to remove. If I have 5 questions that the backflow technician is going to ask you, and do you have horses or cattle on your property? Yeah, well, don't even bother to call. You
Right.
know you don't qualify. So I think we can look at enhancing the communication side of the website with FAQs or a backflow landing page or whatever that.
It does have a lane.
Yeah, I just
I
searched
just-
it and it came up with the
Well-
landing page as the first hit. But anyway, that might have been the way I searched
I
it.
don't know when you did it, but 2 weeks ago, a search for backflow turned up 3 hits. And 2 were board meetings and 1 was
Wow.
the extended list.
I did it right after that. I made all the
Yeah.
adjustments, put it on
All
the
right,
drop.
there we
down
go.
Okay, well,
Service.
it's a cycle time. But anyway, I think if we can look at using the internet as a mechanism to be proactive,
Mhm.
reactive, answer the questions, direct people there. If they can check through the basic boxes, then they'll contact us relative to the technician rather than having the technician suddenly be overwhelmed with calls.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and give us some feedback. We have done
Okay,
that.
I'll
It
go
hasn't
look-
been-
I'll go
look
it's-
again.
It's bullet pointed.
Yeah.
I took all of the cues from the backflow department, Isa, Robert, we all.
The
went
thing about the
through it.
1-inch meter
They-
and
they-
larger have to have
They,
it. That's
they
not.
checked on the
Mhm.
website. When I do
Gotcha.
the updates, it's instant. You can watch them. You
Okay.
can literally watch it, the page change. So we kind of went through it, but yeah, I'd love it if you went in there.
I'll look
and-
again.
And give us
because like
some
I said, it wasn't
feedback
there.
on that, and we'll certainly update it. We still have one more update in regards to what the new language is in regards to the size of the meter. But again, Isa, I don't want to step on any toes, but Isa was saying, we did give them basically, if you feel like you
Qualify.
qualify after reading this, contact. And
Right.
like I said, the cross connection one, it goes to a whole group of us. So somebody's always going to be able to see that email.
But
and
I think we need to have in our front page, one of the standing things say backflow
Yeah.
information, so they don't have to search for it.
Right.
Because you'd have to go, there was a drop down, you could get to it before, but it wasn't a landing page. And one thing I want to make sure everybody's aware of, our number 1 goal is to comply with state law with regard to backflows. Our number 2 goal is to have fewer backflows. Because 5,000 is crazy. I know Alex be the first one to say that, yeah. I mean, we're not going to compromise on somebody who has a pump or,
And even know
other
where all the
sorts of
backflow
things.
devices are.
well, yeah, some of that one's been buried under a tree for a
Tree, I
long
know.
time.
And we
I
could,
can't
we
speak
could,
to
we
that.
could run a
I've
little
been there a
test,
while. I don't know.
Isa, and. see
Nobody
how
who
many
works
people
here was
actually
there when
read
that
the
happened.
newsletter and put something in there.
We definitely can, because the
Yeah.
newspaper newsletter doesn't get, I mean, it gets certain amount of traction, but not, how many times we asked for new committee members and got nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be different than a direct
But
mailer.
that's almost like a trickle out. We could see.
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
going
Yeah.
on cycles, but
Mhm.
we
And-
can
and it-
also
and it can
then,
Really drive them to the website. Yeah,
We-
just, hey, new backhoe policies have been updated. You want to check the website.
There's another way to look at this as well, is that, we have over time had to supplement with Palomar backflow because, especially during what's up, he's busy doing all these other site inspections and all this sort of stuff just to keep our testing program going. If we did get a deluge, over the long run, that deluge would result in many fewer backflows and lower costs overall. And, we wouldn't need these extra resources. In order to deal with that deluge, we might have to shift more over to Palomar on a short-term basis to pick up some of the testing duties. So if he did get deluge, we would be able to, well, hopefully we'd be able to get them to
Do
do
some
more.
balancing.
We have some money in the budget for that. We'd have to take a look, but I think in the long run, customers shouldn't have a backflow if they don't need one. And there was a time where Rainbow put a backflow on everything, no matter what. It was just, or if you're over 2 acres or over a 1-inch meter, irrespective of hazard, which is not what the law says. And so we have way more than we probably need. And a lot of people are paying for them, probably don't need them. So, I mean, the other thing done is that we could have somebody just proactively go out to each customer site as we're testing them, but it didn't have time to do a full inspection, but we could proactively go out and make an assessment, as you're doing testing, saying, horse
This might be-
corral, I see a well, I see that booster pump, I see like Rick Carey, you go by his meter, you're like, oh God, because his tanks of chemicals right there. And just look at ones and maybe just ones that as experienced those, focus it on the people that you just notice going, this is just a resident, like all the people here in Rancho Viejo, like,
Yeah.
man, those are just houses.
So, hey, Tom,
Yeah.
just quickly, so we did do that with the Rancho Viejo area a couple of years ago. And then also as part of the What's Up project, we were doing those surveys like literally on the spot. When we did the project and met with the county up in Rainbow for their water quality improvements for storm drains, as we were looking at the meters that had to be relocated, because then the backflows had to get relocated, we realized, hey, okay, let's talk to these people and do a survey about, getting rid of their backflow as part of the relocation. So when the contractor comes in to relocate the service, if they don't need a backflow, we delete it off their property, right? So when we see the opportunities, we are being proactive. The one thing we're running into, it's a process to remove it. So it's one thing to go out, survey it and say, okay, you don't need it. But then the next process is we have to have Novell remove it out of GeoViewer, and then we have to have billing, remove it out of billing. So it's not just one person going out and saying, okay, you don't need it anymore. So taking maybe a stepped approach, maybe there's some data analysis that we can do and say, okay, all 3, 4, and the 1 6-inch meter we have, you're going to keep your backflows, right? We're not going to tell you can remove back.
Nobody's paying that kind of monthly service charge who isn't using it for.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely somebody has a 4-inch backflow just feeding their house, 4-inch meter in a backflow feeding their house.
How
So
many that is now at all?
Oh, yeah. We know how many of each there are. Yeah.
No, I mean,
yeah, so,
when you take those big numbers out.
There's only a handful of really big meters, couple
Right.
of tops.
So- and then the other option, and then you say, okay, let's look at everybody that has a backflow and a 2-inch meter. And then, because we can look on GeoViewer and say, okay, this one has a well, that one has a well, because we have those. So there's a lot of things we can do just on the computer before we even,
Analytics.
yeah, before we even reach
Person
out
that
to
have a well
customers.
in this or.
Right. And we can really narrow that list down.
Yeah.
And then we break it down by cycles, right? So we send mailers out to everybody in cycle 1 and then do cycle 2 a few months down the road, et cetera, et cetera.
No, that's not a bad
Well,
idea. 'Cause you could filter out the PSR customers or people that are calling themselves ag. And if they're paying for an ag thing, then we're assuming you're doing ag things. You might have fertilizer
Right.
protection or other sorts of things. But then you get down to the people who have backflows who are on single family residential rates. That's going to be a subset. And then we can start narrowing that down and then maybe hit those people up first.
Yeah.
Right.
There'll also
Right.
be simpler things to do because they're probably smaller lots. They're not 40 acres and things like that. So,
I think
Okay.
but Alex is the guy who's got to do it. Maybe what he has to say.
Go ahead, Robert.
No,
I think, following up on what Issa said with where the program was when I started here and where it is now, and a lot of this, efforts between Issa and Alex have gotten us to where we're at right now. We're actually sending these mailers out. When people don't pass their test and they fail to test it, we're letting them know we're going to turn your water off. And that in and of itself creates a lot of work too, right? Because customer service has to notify those folks and let them know. We have to send somebody out there to turn it on. We have to send somebody out there to turn it back, or turn it off, then turn it back on. So it's a lot of work all over the place, and we just started sending those notices out. So I think if we spend a little bit of time and analyze the data and maybe come up with a really refined list that we want to target folks, the dividends would pay a lot more doing that data research and spending our time in that realm before we start just, blasting all 5,000 backflow users and say,
Well, I think that's a good suggestion. But my one comment would be that, I'm looking at the website right now and in the landing page that talks about the testing program. And though well done, it has a lot of information on it. And somebody's going to have to start pouring through this. And until you get to the very end where it talks about where you have requirements, if we can have something super simple to Hayden's earlier point, the very first thing that
Right
they
out the
get
gate.
taken to is click on this button to determine whether you need a backflow device or not. Do you?
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Mark,
We put one of those
I-
boxes on
yeah,
the
if
side.
you
Or
can't
drop it
answer
into an
no
FAQ.
to every single question, then you gotta have it and you gotta test it and you gotta pay for it, right? So something.
If you want to complain, go talk to the legislature.
Right, and only if
We
you
didn't
get
make
to-
this
if you
one
can
up.
answer yes to all of these, does it pop up a number to call to to disconnect or get rid of it? Something simple at the very
Yeah.
top of this thing, 'cause it's great information.
Okay.
But it's if I'm looking at it and I don't know anything about backflow, I bought a property. It's a lot to digest, right? Of whether or not
Yeah.
I don't
And
have to
I
fix
would
it.
tend to go to FAQs first too, anyway. If I
Right.
did a search on backflow removal and had an FAQ pop up, I'd go there and see what it said.
All right, yeah, we'll,
Okay.
do
We'll get
some
working on
refinements.
that, but I do want to basically go with what Robert has to say, which is one of the things that we are very focused on that takes a great deal of all of our time and energy, me included, is these letters.
Yeah.
A great deal of time
Forgot about the letters to people that aren't.
are failing,
I'll just give you an
Yeah.
example.
which is really our priority right now in getting this program so it's up and running properly and by the state.
Yeah, when I worked at a
legislative
Liebenhain,
law.
we had less than half the number of backflow devices, over 25,000 meters. But everybody had to test their own. And it was 2 full-time employees to send the notices for people to get tests, to follow up, say, hey, you didn't get your test.
Right.
And then, hey, your test failed when they get it back. And then to go to say, all right, we're going to get you shut off. And that whole process of noticing and back and forth is enormous. I mean, it's so much more efficient. Just have Alex and sometimes help from Palomar to go test them out there and just deal with the other ones. But
I guess, but I think the comments from the committee are with regards to improving communication and trying to get to
Yep.
where we have to test less backflow.
Yes.
yes,
We can
our
get
goal.
People to opt out because they meet the criteria.
Let's get opt
How
out
do-
at the
how-
top.
Yeah, how do we figure out them to say?
It's better
"I
for
don't need
everybody.
This anymore, and they. don't
Alex,
have
what
to
do you
do it."
think?
Yeah, they don't have.
I see you got the mic.
Oh, I got it for preparation. Alex Galloway, cross connection specialist, and backflow tester. So I like the idea of the FAQ question / page. Another idea that kind of pops in my head regarding the letters that are being sent out to customers who have failed backflows is maybe include in that letter some language saying if you feel like you don't need a backflow because of whatever. What's that? Yes. So and just include that in part of the language because they're going to read it anyway because they're going to pay attention to these letters saying if you feel like you don't need a backflow, call, my extension and leave a voicemail, then I call them back and we can schedule an inspection. And it's about 80 customers a month ish that are failing. That's just a rough number. And 80 a month, I feel like if they get the info with the option directly to them to remove their backflow could be, not, a complete inundation, at once. So
Well, you're already inundated with them, so it's not gonna.
yeah, they're already getting that.
I agree.
And I'm already, sorry,
No.
Cynthia, I'm already being called by a lot of these customers anyway. So if we can maybe kill two birds with one stone with a lot of these customers that don't need them while they're on the phone with me anyway, maybe that'll kind of expedite the process. That's just a thought.
No, that's a good idea.
Economy is dictating that people are looking more closely at their bills and they're seeing the backflow charge and going,
Yes.
do I really need this?
Right.
Can I save $10 a month or whatever it is to
For
Eliminate.
481.
481? But
41.
if you ask my
Unless
wife,
you're Bob Marnett.
that's times 12.
Did Netflix used to
That's
cost that?
It's like $60 a year. That's like the cost of a test.
Yeah.
They send you the details.
Oh, if you can get a tester to come out.
yes.
Okay. Well, I think the webpage looks great, but I think we just have to figure out
Yep.
a way to operate.
We got to emphasize, well, it's an invert and rotate situation, but even not that, we've got to steer them toward the information we want. Our goal is A, to comply with state law, and B, reduce the number of backflows. And so the whole thing is compliance with state law, but we should lead with, hey, there's a great chance for you to save some money and save us some money and save everybody some hassle if you meet these criteria, all of them.
And I know we talked about it before, but they don't have to remove the backflow, right? If they
Yeah.
meet the criteria, they could let it sit there, right? There's no cost associated.
There's no law against it being there and not being tested if it's not required, but we'd have to have really
You
good
don't
records
test
showing.
mine.
It's something we've talked about internally is
Will
how do you
Robert,
go ahead.
deconflict? Oh, it's something we've been talking about internally. If they leave the backflow there, yeah, like Tom said, our records have to be really tight because what we're worried about is they call, they say, hey, my backflow's leaking. Our after hours guy goes out there to try and figure out what's going on with it. And the reality is they've been surveyed and told they don't need it anymore. They're not paying a charge for it, but yet we're showing up to try and service it. So trying to make sure that the data is dead
Tell you
on.
something I did a number of years ago with a developer who we would give them, before they pay their capacity fees, they'd want a meter so the plumber could finish the house. So we had this deal where that you could pay some certain monthly fee and we would just stick a temporary meter in there. But the deal was you couldn't sell the house or anything or move anybody in until you paid it. But some of these guys would go in and not do it. And so what we did is we make the risers for the meters that you can bring the meter out of the box, brought them up above grade, painted them bright pink. So they're sitting there when they're trying to sell the house with this bright pink thing sitting in front of their house. We say, hey, you want to leave it there? We've got to identify it. We're going to paint it bright pink. That way he knows not to test it. And the customer goes, God, that thing's ugly. I got to get a plumber out here to get rid of that thing.
But it would be better if it was in the record so that when they call and said it's leaking, then you say,
Yeah, we had the record keeping has to be absolute on that because
Right.
it's
And
not-
someone like Alex will know, but somebody that works in construction that maybe doesn't deal with backflows every day and they're on water standby and they go out.
But
they
if it's
just see
bright
a
pink,
leak.
you go,
Oh, like that, yes.
Yeah.
If you
Bright
give
pink.
no,
us,
I was talking about
But our
the
records
customer
still have to be
yeah.
good because the customer can paint their own backflow.
well, I mean,
They can paint it back
but
to,
pink and it's paint, you're gonna paint it bronze, I guess.
Mhm.
Just for clarification.
I know my customers are there. They'll do it.
Jesus.
we are asking the customers to remove the device.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can straight pipe it. It's, if they
Yeah.
want.
They could remove the device above ground, underground. We prefer that they get rid of it.
Okay, so that's a district policy.
Yes.
It's technically owned by the
It's in
customer.
their interest
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
incentivize them to do it because, hey, you understand if it starts leaking, you pay for the water that flows
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
Well, but get to clarification there, it's after the meter. So if it starts leaking, why are they calling the district anyway? We're not responsible for that, are we?
Well, now they have a
It's-
shut off valve. Yeah. Well, it's not.
It's the same reason that they call and they have a leak inside their house, a leak in their garage, a leak in their backyard.
Think
We
about
get
it.
called for all
All
kinds of stuff.
Manner of stuff.
All manner.
It's
of
water,
stuff.
call the water company.
Well, people say there's a leak at your meter box, and so we gotta send somebody out there. It's a backflow dumping, right?
Yeah.
And it's so,
Can we charge a service call on those situations?
man, we don't, I mean, 'cause people,
Uh.
you've got a main break and it's somebody's irrigation line head is broken and it's streaming across the
Yeah.
street, right? And so we like it when people notify us at least,
Yeah.
because sometimes it is a leak and we got to get on it. So it's always a relief when they get out there and it isn't ours. Those are the best
Right.
leak calls we
And
get.
it's encouraging them to stop wasting water. If they're out there and it's their
But-
leak, at least, we're telling them.
You know, if the board wanted to, and if, we could look at what it would take to get some dummy straight pipes that are the size of most common backflows that we could drop in. Yeah, I mean, if it's smaller backflows, we could even make up essentially some nipples and sweat them up in the yard and go out there and just, all right, do you inspect it? Yeah, you don't need it anymore. Yank that sucker out of there. We've got customer shut off valves now, the backflows. I don't know. What do you think, Alex? I mean, that wouldn't be a massive effort.
Yeah, if
Do-
it's a matter of us yanking them out, yeah, just a nipple with the union in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that the issue with not or the issue with requiring them to remove their backflows was so we don't confuse them with ones that are in
Oh,
our
yeah.
system and that we're responsible for. I know it's kind of a gray area. When we remove them from the account and billing and on the testing cycle, even if they keep them, or if they were to keep them, they would be removed from GeoView, so we could see that they're no longer in our system.
And we would take them out of everything, so there wouldn't be any work orders or anything produced for that.
But it needs to be absolutely clear that if they're removed from our system, we reprove them and all that, that if it leaks, it's completely on.
Well, let's
them.
just let's take a look at what it would take for normal size, 1 inch, 3/4 inch, inch and a half, you start getting a bigger pipe, it gets to be a bigger pipe is trickier. But most of the 1.5 and 2 inch meters are all still ag people, because there's a handful of people who don't have ag who won't downsize because they want to keep their capacity rights, which is a strange business decision if you ask me.
Paid for them. They don't want to have to.
Well,
pay
they
for
didn't
'em.
pay for them, but yeah, most of those people got those meters when there was no capacity fees. But there's but I think the vast majority of the ones we're going to get removed are going to be 1 inch and smaller. And it might be, if we look at your standard,
1 inch, 3/4 inch.
yeah, Febco 825Y or whatever it is, what it would take to spin that sucker out of there and put a new one in. Put it straight.
Yeah, we'll
And I think
we'll take a,
because if we're talking about $10 plus labor to do it, and you look at what a service call is to go back and check a leak.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, in the long run, it's best for this thing to be gone. Some people, yeah, I got a guy, I'll have my irrigation guy do it or whatever. But those are the people who probably need one. Most regular Joe homeowner is just gonna go, what do I do? But there would be a cost to us, and it might be they put it on a list and have our metering crew go back later and, all right, here's a list. Alex says, here's a list. This month we got 20 of them coming out, and the guys, we know what make and model size, right? We had serial numbers, so we know exactly the lay length of that device. Technically, it should be water type, but it really depends on how people plumb them to how easy to get it. Most of them will have a union there somewhere to be able to.
what we'll do, Tom, is we'll find a 3/4 or 1 inch that's been surveyed and scheduled to be removed, and we'll do a little pilot test on it and see how it goes.
Yeah, okay.
A straight pipe in it.
I mean,
Yeah,
the easier we make it for people to do this, the more are gonna do it. And that's
Right.
the long run, that's our best.
Right,
interest.
but I think from a communication standpoint, that is the incentive, right? That if you can check these boxes, not need it. And the
We'll just
board-
handle it
and
for
the
you.
board approves, then we'll remove it, straight pipe it, and you're done with it.
So Robert will get some information on what we think that'll cost. We'll look at labor and what our resources availability is gonna be to do it.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing real quick about that. I think that could be a good solution, creating those, nipples just to swap them out, because I have a stack of probably 30 applications that have been approved, but they haven't removed them yet because it's going to cost hundreds of bucks for them to hire a plumber.
Right. So it's likely we could do it more cost effectively.
Yeah.
It'll end up on everyone's bill at some point, but we can help lower the whole program cost.
Okay.
Grease the skids. Let's try to grease the skids a bit.
All right, great.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
appreciate
Really,
it.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for jumping on it. Like I said, it's 3 weeks has made major changes in at least communications on the website.
Job.
I don't know, I sent her an email. Talk to those guys.
Team.
All right, moving on. Near and dear topic. Item 13, committee member recruitment,
Tours and a big net.
tours and a big net. That
I-
yellow
I-
sticky paper that goes in.
Well, we've been wanting to present like a testimonial on what it was like to be in there, but I think since Russ is leaving, we should land that on him to write that before he leaves, right?
What did he give an effective date of his resignation?
I asked him to send me a formal resignation so I can date his Form 700 stuff. So I'm assuming today was just notice, but not formal.
Okay.
But one thing that I didn't do is I haven't reached out to the other committees because it doesn't need to just be our committee. We need
Oh, no,
a
yeah, definitely.
testimonial from engineering and operations. And why are you here and what do you get out of it? And
Flint
that
would
type of
probably be a
thing.
good person. 'Cause
So-
he's chair of two of them.
Okay,
All right, I'll do it.
All right, a blurb, just a blurb.
just a blurb. And
If you
I
just
took,
want to, you just want to wing it right now into the microphone, we can transcribe it from Dawn. So you don't even have to type anything.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do that.
All right.
so that would be
Just
good.
give me a
I-
chance
I-
to
I
riff.
think it will just put some teeth into the communication.
Okay,
And reaching out, I am reaching out to customers again in the newsletter in regards to that, because it's the water rates and it's the detachment and all of that. And it's
You can
like,
say, hey, did you notice your water rates had to go up?
yeah,
You know,
well,
come
I'm
do
saying
something
this is
about
your opportunity to, look at our processes and integrate, or collaborate with, other ratepayers and find out, how we're spending our money, what we're doing and all of that,
it. Why is it that most of the money goes to the water authority?
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, I think we've talked about a lot of things today and are working on things that are all gonna help here. Obviously, this committee is now getting kind of thin, so we gotta step it up immediately.
Ramp it up.
All right,
Or like, you just count the 100th customer that comes in is automatically on the committee. They have to.
what about
Yeah,
the,
you've been
what about the
conscripted.
gentleman working the voting box?
Yeah. What was his name? He used to be a North County Fire Board.
Yeah, that's
Did we
right.
get a name?
He
He
told me
was
his name. but I don't
gone
remember.
when.
Yeah. Trying to remember who was the main contact for those. Was that you? Oh,
Yeah, I'm the main contact.
But
I could,
do you remember-
I could,
find
I
out
could
who
reach
they
out to
were.
Lisa. And
Yeah, find out who their names. It wasn't the guy in the wheelchair. It was the other guy. He's
Yep.
Division 5.
Yep.
See if he wants to join. I told him it was during the committee meeting. I
Right,
told
and we
him
went
about-
out there and he was gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's-
Volunteers.
Oh,
man.
the voting. poll.
Yeah, the polls, the guys manning the polling booth.
Hmm.
Hey, there were got quite a few people came in here on voting night. I stayed here till it
Yeah.
closed, and they
Yeah,
filled
that
2
was
of the
a busy
bags.
night, But yes, a busy day, but
The other ones, there were like 2 people tops. Some days none. I don't think they needed to be open for 2 weeks ahead of time.
All right, so we're deferring 14 to next month. Item
Mhm.
15, best practices for water conservation and communications.
I do not recall exactly what you guys wanted, but I did provide you with this. This was the March. March is Conservation Month. This is all of the stuff that is on the website and is basically letting them know that these are all the ways that you can increase or become more knowledgeable about water usage and water use efficiency, outlining, free programs and
Landscape makeover workshops.
just, this is literally everything that we have. And in the website, all the links are there. I think a couple can be added. We're getting a lot of stuff from San Diego County Water Authority and Metropolitan. I'm getting a lot of multimedia items, flyers, great little slogans, things like that. So I can certainly kind of jazz it up a little. Where we all have links that we can go right into their shared drives and pull all that information. triples, flyers.
I think that there's going to be a general ramping up in the media
There is.
on conservation. The water authority is already running more ads now, and Metropolitan's running ads. You're starting to see it on Caltrans signage again. Conservation messaging. So it's going to be hitting people on TV, on YouTube, and a lot of places from a lot of directions. But I think that,
My side note,
yeah,
that down at the bottom, that was a side note. That wasn't actually in the article. But
Solana
I want to
Center.
say the one thing I didn't say was that, the slot, and I advertised.
Isn't that down at Encinitas though, or something?
It is.
Yeah, that's a drive.
Are there any programs anymore to, to convert your land?
Your yard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's turf rebates.
It's all-
But not AstroTurf.
That's in the SoCal Water Smart and that link
They
there.
have the turf replacement.
Isn't
I
it the- or is
actually
it
had
Be
a
Water
cus-
Wise?
I actually had a customer come in and ask in regards to,
It does not count if you're putting in artificial grass, though. They won't give you any money for that. So it's not just about
you
saving
have to
water.
turn it into a conservation, and that's what I was talking to the gentleman about. He really wanted.
Because I'm putting some artificial grass in my backyard next week and
Yeah.
because I want to get rid of part of my lawn and I get nothing.
Yep,
I'm like, what?
yeah.
But there's funding.
Yeah, it's
There is- there is-
$2 a square foot, I believe, right now. I expect that number to go up as the drought goes.
Yeah.
The funny thing about it is
They're talking
Metropolitan.
about it, and they are having that conversation with Metropolitan.
Metropolitan had a news release yesterday. They put out about the success of the program. But one of the successes is they found that when they've been doing these aerial surveys, they have a lot of money up there. But it is aerial surveys of people that got the rebate. They found that for every one person, like 0.4 more yards did the same thing nearby, but didn't get the rebate.
Didn't get it.
Didn't go for the rebate. So but now they think there's been like 200 million square feet of turf removed, all across Met service area from Ventura County to the border, saving the princely sum of 15,000 acre feet a year, but at a massive cost of several $100 million.
Yep.
And so
It's
from a cost, it's from a cost benefit standpoint, from a pure water resource thing, it's not the really greatest investment. It's great for PR. Some people love it. But it isn't going to make a dent. We could rip out every lawn in the urban areas. It's not going to fix the Colorado River. That's for sure.
Sure.
15,000 acre feet ain't the thing they need. So, but it is, I expect them to start ramping it up because it's good politics.
So I guess where I'm going with this is, obviously this types of information is good. If there are, whether it's we push with Flume that there's a rebate program, right? That anytime there's anything where they can get money to convert, and whether it's, from spraying, rotary stuff to drip, or if it's for
Right. Well, it's
pulling
like a
out
couple
grass
bucks a
or
head.
whatever, then I think we just need to bubble up the call to action. Right? People see dollar signs. Is there a way that I can, subsidize a change, reduce my water bill at the same time? And if we know about these things in a much more comprehensive way than the average ratepayer, then let's figure out a way to kind of get that enticement as high, up in the communication as we can. That's so, with the SoCal Water Smart, if that's where that.
No, actually, it's the bewaterwise.com, isn't it? Or SoCal Water Smart.
SoCal-
Both Water Smart has it too. Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, they
both.
all go through the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can.
But
you can
SoCal
go
Water
to-
Smart ends up, it's also bewaterwise.com.
Exactly.
And then they have all the programs.
Yeah. But I also changed the website in regards to where that was located as well. It was under programs and it had all these other things. Now I renamed that drop down as conservation, and then it says the rebates, the programs, the
Okay.
water use efficiency. Same as I did with the backflow where we started with services, and I ended up putting it there.
No, we should definitely put the bewaterwise.com on there, even though they're linked to each other on their web pages. It is a slightly different page. It's run through Met.
Yes. I have a nice hefty checklist after I get through all those
Yeah.
letters for
She
backflow.
loves these committee meetings. That was her favorite, I think.
Well, I mean, it's,
There's no economic benefit for being water wise.
no,
I mean,
because
It-
people's
it-
rates go up
it-
as
it-
they use less water.
Exactly.
yeah. I mean,
And they're getting
if you
smart
look
about
at-
that. They figured out that.
You look at Met, the example you just cited.
Yeah.
and just ballpark number, they say 15,000 acre feet, which is roughly $15 million in reduced revenue that they spent $15 million to get.
Oh, a lot more than
A lot
15
more
million,
than-
$2, and it was $2 per square foot, 200. So they probably spent 100 million square feet, about half of that. And they spent $2 each, $200 million to save $15 million worth of water.
Well, but
It's bad business. Water is
the thing
bad
is,
business.
Once it's out, it's 15 million a year, but so you can come back. to
If
where it
people, if
matches,
the
but
next guy moves in and doesn't replant,
Yeah,
you still see sod trucks driving down the freeway.
there's no economic incentive associated with it.
The incentive is coming from the wrong place. The incentive comes from other ratepayers.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just drives up all the other ratepayers' costs. I think that we're sitting on $97 billion worth of extra money in Sacramento. That money should come in and fund this sort of stuff because it's a double whammy. It's just like the Met's LR local resource program where they incentivize people to develop local supplies so they roll off of Met and the water authority, but then the other people remain have to pay that sub to these other guys while their rates go up because demands are going down. It's like the math on that is very, very bad for those of us. Now, if you're the guy getting all the money, awesome. But if you're the one paying it, bad. And
You know,
so
I
the winners
did-
and losers.
I did, I think all of the agencies under San Diego County Water Authority were reached out to in regards to some of their other programs that they're ramping up as well. And they are looking to partner with the agencies at events. So I actually looked at possibly going to the Fallbrook Farmers Market for their Saturday morning thing and doing with the MAP funding. It depends upon how much I have to spend on the water fountains at the school. We're delegated $15,000 every year. We also think it is, I believe it's highly important that we convert our front area because that speaks volumes to every customer that comes in. If we have an actual conservation garden and have the signage so that they can see
what they
the
do.
actual items that they should purchase. And when
Our
you
new
see
building will
that,
definitely
You
have
have
that.
that.
we
I don't know if I
will,
want to
but
invest
we
in it.
we have $15,000 that we can spend.
Oh, you get, that means, because that's MWD money that
Yes,
they
it
funnel
is.
down through the water authority
Exactly.
to us. So it's.
And so I
it's-
need to use it. I've got to find
MAP
out.
is what, member agency program?
It's
MAP?
MAAP.
Member agency administered program.
There it is. So I have to put in all the documentation for those things, the water fountains first. Because they've been waiting because the MAP funding doesn't come available. But every 2 years, it used to be every year. And so they've been waiting. So I need to do them, whatever we have left over. If we cannot do a conservation garden, I can do what Fallbrook did and my application, I can just mimic theirs, which is to actually have cactus available.
What if we were to take that MAP funding and pay the full cost of flumes for people?
Nobody's balking at the $49. They think it's fantastic. Every,
That would be.
yeah. And
'cause
my
yeah, I
staff
know, is that-
pushes that like you wouldn't believe. Even if they,
Even without a testimonial.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm with you.
yeah. Well, I'm a testimonial every time too,
Oh,
so
man.
I mean, that's one of the advantages of living in the district and
Flume saved my
having
mom's
a leak
bacon.
and
She's
all
85, she had
those
a big
things.
leak, and Flume
Um,
saved her. She had
but
lost
I've
1,500
only-
gallons before she.
I've
flumed.
only had a couple of customers actually just go, it's just too techie or something like that. But the rest of them.
All right, just right, make the
e-
check out to
especially
Rainbow
our new
Municipal Water
customers,
District.
Just think that's a great idea.
All right.
And
Well, Joe Fazio had some concern when I talked to him when I was at the conference in Texas, and he said, "Yeah, if we make it free, we ship it to them, and it sits there on their
absolutely,
their garage
They put-
workbench and never gets
Yeah,
put
they
in."
pay for it, they use it.
Yeah, you gotta have a little cost.
Little skin in the game.
Yeah.
So,
The
all right,
battery replacement could come a little faster. I gotta tell you, I got my notification that my batteries were
Yeah.
getting low. And it was like, hey, your batteries are getting low, you better order. So I'm on my phone. I see that and I'm like, wait, or take care of it right now. So I did it right then and I bought the new batteries, which, you know, the pack, it's,
yeah.
you just don't get to put AA batteries in it.
Yeah.
You can buy the batteries on Amazon.
Well, no, it's in a
Oh, you,
plastic case.
are you in the version 2?
Flume 2,
Oh, Flume 2.
which
okay.
is really just AA batteries.
Yeah, yeah.
Stuck
And
together.
Yep.
in a little
Yep.
plastic thing.
Yep.
But I ordered those straight away and they come via the mail. And the next day, my Flume
Dying.
was.
Oh.
And
I
so
see.
I was, because I did it right away,
Yeah.
I was probably only down for 3 days before my Flume, I
Yeah.
was able to.
I
replace
would say the
battery.
notification that your battery's going low needs to come sooner.
And I
Yes.
don't know what that process.
Yeah.
Is, or, you know, maybe it was just with the batteries,
Yeah.
It's the nature of the batteries I use.
Sometimes they get to that spot and then they. fall
I
out.
know on the AA ones, it's like.
It's
if you're
not linear decline.
Yeah, if you're
So it
using
is,
Costco, you get the notice that they're gonna die, and before you can get down to the device to replace them, it's dead.
Yeah,
But if
got
you
the
use the
Flume, yeah.
Energizer batteries,
Right, so I bought the pack, whatever it
Yeah.
cost, but
Yeah.
in replacement.
I haven't had to replace my Flume 2s yet.
Yeah,
That's
but,
probably coming.
But I think I always have a lot of little things going on, so I think my device works a lot.
Let's see. Let me look at my battery status. I haven't looked at it. in a
Okay,
while.
well, my
Ours
only
has affected
advice
better.
is people take call to action. So when we're talking conservation, the more things that we can bubble up and make it some type of a call to action. whether
Save
it's-
water now.
Well, or if it's
I'm-
whether it's a rebate or it's
Yes.
funding or you're eligible for, you know,
Yeah.
free mulch, whatever it happens to be,
Yeah.
people want that, then let's just feed it into the newsletters.
Yeah, like right at the top, say, hey,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of special
Well, wanna-
offers that
I-
you could take
yeah, I wanna-
advantage of.
I want to
First
take it
sentence.
across the board. Like I said, go to the farmer's market and have the Flume device there, have the cactus that they can go home with, have the folders that have all of the information on, you know, the programs I'm with. They've got video, they've got workshops, they've got tutorials. I mean, everything. You could do it literally from our website, get all those links, but also, one of the things that I think they're also doing is including the buckets is the magnets for the cars. So the trucks will have, you know, save water, save now. They'll be colorful, whatever,
But
and grab
So,
people's
so
attention.
what Bill was saying on something like this, where the title is making conservation simple, we should leave with a title like, hey, rebates available for conservation. And then the beginning of each one should, like the Flume one, we talked about waste and water, we say, save $150 on a Flume device and then go into that stuff.
And that's
you
the
know?
one that actually has money in it. And
Yeah.
talks about money. The other ones, again, don't necessarily. You'd have
Well,
to click into the specific.
That's one thing that is missing is like turf removal and things like that. There's not a hell of a lot of turf left in this area. I mean,
There isn't.
there's not,
But if
I mean,
there,
it's not-
if it's in.
other than rich people who don't care.
I believe because they give me the feedback that, because like anyone who does an audit, we have to verify their account. We have to verify that they're in our district, that so on and so forth. I haven't got one turf. Not one verification of
But is there
there's somebody
money
who
for
wants to.
converting sprinklers to drip?
Yes,
Well, that's something we want to highlight. right?
that's on the bewaterwise.com page.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different, I don't know on that one. That's different.
I
That's
think
a-
it's like $1.50 a head or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then with regards to overall communication.
Head on the drip or head on the sprinkler?
To take out an old gear rotor
Mm.
lawn thing and put on one of the ones with not the old regular spray ones, to put on one of the ones that do the micro, not, they have, I forget what they call them. Darn it. It's a different type of sprayer that's much more efficient, that puts in, doesn't atomize as much.
Mhm.
And so it delivers more onto the
Right,
grass.
right.
So we talked about this in another meeting, but as the whole conservation and the water.
The drought thing.
Drought and water crisis continues to escalate, we're gonna have neighbors and people getting upset, right? With friends and neighbors and
Yeah.
non-friends and neighbors and things like that. And the role of the water district.
Water cops.
Well, yeah, well, what are we saying about that? What's the policy?
Yeah,
on that?
we get water waste reports pretty regular. I mean, they come through our website, not a lot.
Not a lot.
That'll probably start ramping up.
Yeah.
But It's not a lot of narking on neighbors, but I'm sure that might happen in the
Well,
future.
yeah, let me give you an example where something that I
Okay.
saw that I was surprised about. Somebody posts a polytube picture, you know, 3/4 or a 1/2 inch polytube picture where it had been chewed through. You know, like a 18 inches section had been chewed through on both sides. And somebody's posting it on Nextdoor and they're saying, you know, what could do this? And you know, what kind of animal could do this? And then everybody, of course, is going to jump in and talk about, you know, crazy rabbits, the coyotes,
Coyotes,
pups,
gophers,
you
you
name it.
know,
But the comments that were showing up, some of the comments that were showing up were maybe it's the neighbor, you know, upset that you're even irrigating those plants right now. And that kind of,
Jeez
that
Louise.
all I can
Oh,
say
that's
is I
interesting.
feel like
That's interesting.
there's going to be a wave coming and people are going to start and so I think the district should be prepared on, you know, what we do and what,
yeah.
you know, and how we take those, you know, those
Yeah,
upset.
they're out there. I've got a neighbor like that.
You
Okay.
gotta stay off next door though.
Hey,
I'm not on it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
sometimes
out
stuff
there.
Pops up, so, and it's about water, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
push, Right, so,
Yeah.
anyway, I just think, you know, when people do call in and they're upset, or, you know, what we're willing to do or not.
We'll probably find more people complaining that where they have a remote meter and their lines go through across other people's land, that "Oh, this guy must be stealing my water." Those sort of disputes will start coming.
All right, item 16, public communications related media stories. Anything to discuss?
I didn't.
I think we had an op-ed in a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
Jack and I put in the Village News. It's been
Almost
some,
almost a month ago. I think it was right after the first meeting or in the,
yeah, okay.
it came out today in today's Village News,
I haven't read it yet.
you know, for the last meeting.
Yeah, last
It
month.
was
Oh,
like on last
okay.
one. There was, we talked about it just before the meeting, San Diego, the Fulbright had a extensive article on the increase in rates by the San Diego Water Authority, which in my case, as far as I was concerned, failed to mention that Rainbow and Fallbrook got dinged the most
Yeah, that's
in
unfortunate.
terms of rate increases.
And he clearly didn't sit through the whole day of meetings because I voted no on that, even though that was at the committee
But
level.
yeah, I think he was working from the general session.
Yeah, yeah.
Just passed unanimously.
It's unfortunate.
Okay,
Rainbow and Fallbrook were singled out, the only agencies over 8% increase in the variable rate.
okay. Anything else on 16?
Nothing suspicious there, though.
Nothing to see here. Moving. on.
Apparently, we have a couple in the works.
Yep. There's one in your inbox
That's what I've been told.
that basically touches on that point on, you know, the fact that, you know, this has been going on for a while, that the nature of the costs of water hitting our community is harder. And because we have larger lots and larger users, it's even larger. It's not $5 a month increase like they try to say. For our people, it's $20 or $30 a month different.
I do have a question related to that, and the latest billing cycle in the newsletter, it talks about rate increases.
The letter went out.
We sent out a letter, a
Oh, sorry,
specific
the
letter.
letter.
Yeah.
That's
That
right.
just went out. That went out to everybody?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
all customers.
And
No, I mean, I didn't know if it's
that
going
it
away.
reflects
Go
the water authority's rate increase.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Need to explain it to the powers that be, that's why.
We had to wait until they took their action to know exactly,
Yeah.
but it's hard to know. It's all an estimate because it doesn't start until next January. And their rate increase, when they give it to us percentage, is based on their forecasted sales. If their sales are lower than that, then it's actually higher as a percentage. And so the math is always fuzzy and it's never
Make an
precise.
assumption.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that so that I can explain to the powers that be,
Yeah.
who is already complaining about their rate.
Have we gotten a lot of calls from that letter already? That just came this week, right?
No calls at all. It did. I mean, yeah, I think everybody has received it.
Well, and the thing that it shows is that if the LAFCO could, you know, get off the stick and get us out of water authority, our rates are to start going down. not up, but we're kind of chained to these people to the south of us. We got to keep paying for their stuff. Stinks.
Anything else?
I've had more calls lately and communication with customers about storage and what our future holds. It's kind of like that Chris Doherty question that we had at the staff meeting, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Seriously, are we running out of water? And what, and I mean, because me cutting back is not going to make a bit of difference at this point. Then we're not going to just get more water. So they're more talking about what are the plans for future transportation and storage? What are we going to do with these rainfall? I mean, you know, they know what's happening and they are expecting that we'll have another big rain. And how are we going to get this water down here?
And the
Yeah.
AP story that you mentioned before?
What's that?
Was there?
Oh,
an
the-
AP story?
Yeah, that AP story. And
Did that talk about?
it was more general to water in the West. I got one quote on it. It ran the Washington Post. So we got a quote there. But my comments I made earlier are basically what's going to come down, and it's a tale of two different sources of supply, one of which is flashy and cyclical. It goes up and down. It's on a general decline, but it does this. But the Colorado is just flatlining. And we guys have to make wiser choices on how we use water and how we store. Storage isn't an issue in the Colorado. There are plenty of storage out there. It's just a matter of there's more water going out than's going in, and that's just math. California, you know, we're overflowing dams one year and they're empty the next year or a couple of years. You know, it takes a couple of years. So we just need more storage. The governor is all
They empty
for
the dams and then there's no water,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, they used to
generally,
store in the form of snowpack, but it's
Yeah.
no longer now it's come down as wet
Right.
water. The average amount of water is only going down slowly over time, but it's just coming down flashier. It's drier dries and wetter wets. So the solution to that is more storage, but will Sacramento get their act together and be able to marshal people to allow for the sites and Temperance Flats and other sites? Places?
Article
Bill,
I
Bill
was-
Mordisau.
The article I was reading, that you might have been referencing it was talking about from a water rights standpoint and how you have all these farmers
Yeah.
in Arizona and other places growing alfalfa, doing this usage so they just don't lose the water right.
Yeah.
That otherwise they would not be growing anything. They would not. be
Well,
using the
because they
water.
know that someone's about to start writing $1 billion checks for those water rights. There's been people investing in these things because they see, you know, this has been on the signals have been here for a while, and the solution isn't through the courts because that'll take too long. When it gets to a pinch and the water knife, you know, I've been referencing that book on Twitter quite a bit because, you know, it's not Cadillac Desert anymore because we're past that. We're going into the water knife if they don't do something, because you're going to see growth stop in Phoenix and places like that because there's just not going to be enough water, and then a contraction of the economy, and then migration out unless something's done. Because once the
You
economy
can't-
starts contracting, then the people are like, well, there's no work or there's no growth here. Then your housing values start dropping. Like, well, I'm getting out and getting good. And then people in California say, well, whoa, we don't have room for you here. We don't have the water either. We aren't taking our water. And that's when the wall goes up.
Yep.
It's in the book.
He's talking about a book, a novel that's based on water rights.
Based on
Well,
what
that
happens,
was-
what's the worst case scenario? It's a
Not water
fantastic,
fights,
it's
wars,
a novel about a apocalyptic future. If we drain out the reservoirs and there's not enough water along the Colorado, what happens? Fantastic. I hope they should make it to a movie. It would sell.
Yeah,
right
it-
now.
I
It
think
really
that- I
should.
think it would
It's
be-
from 2015 or 2016, I think.
Send the
Amazon link,
Yeah.
The Water Knife, by a guy who's an Italian sounding name.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
And as you had mentioned about the Salton Sea, have there been any articles recently written about that?
Yeah, there's been a number in,
There was something on the news last week about a group or committee going out to look at the Salton Sea for some sort of treatment. I didn't quite.
the state had funded it for a
Yeah.
couple $100 million to
Oh.
do some stuff, but nobody can agree on what to do.
do.
And
I thought-
because
Okay.
and Director Hamby from IAD, you know, who doesn't like the ag to urban transfer, and he don't like it, but because it's been quote, that's what's drawing up the Salton Sea, which isn't the case. It's a inland body of water in the middle of a desert. You know, if you don't artificially keep it full, it evaporates. That's what happens to ponds.
I thought there was a lot of land buying going out there because of
Lithium.
Yes.
Lithium, yeah.
There's discussions on that people think
That's what I had heard. They were
yeah.
looking
And
at
so
that.
they're trying to say that they want to put a tax on any lithium extraction to pay for Salton Sea things. And, you know, God love them. It's their backyard. They don't want to be the doorstop for everybody for those issues, but it just needs funding to get it done. And how do you keep dust from blowing in the desert? You know, I don't know.
Put a tarp down, a big
Yeah.
tarp.
Haven't you driven by Owens Lake lately?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, and you know, the city of LA lost on that one too. Well, that was an actual lake that got artificially sucked dry. The Salton Sea wasn't a lake that got artificially. I mean, Lake Cahuilla had come and gone over the millennia a number of times when the river would change course, but the river, once channelized, was not doing that until whoops, that canal broke and filled it up. So there will be a lot of action around Imperial Valley coming up. And there was an article the other day about how, you know, their board is elected by, I don't know, was there 70,000 people who live out in Imperial Valley? This is a small 5-member water district board. Well, Imperial Irrigation District has power too there, but they haven't, there's going to be, you know, 20,000 voters or 15 to 20,000 voters per division that are going to make decisions that will affect the entire Southwest United States. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure on those elections. It'll probably be funded by a lot of people for little, you know, the guy who represents Holtville, you know, it's like,
Yeah, you can only imagine.
it's a carrot capital of the world, though, you know.
Good for them. All right, anything else?
Nope.
5:03, and we'll